Hi everyone, Ashley here and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a creation that I made as part of a YouTube video hop that is in support of my crafty friend Neha at the opening of her new website. So make sure to check the video description details just below this video to see more information on that hop and who to go to next. Okay, so for my card, I made a cute camping themed card using a lot of Lawn Fawn supplies, and Lawn Fawn supplies are some of the supplies that you'll find on Neha's website. I'm starting by assembling this die, and this is called the Smiley S'more, and this is from Lawn Fawn's newest release. This is as of summer 2021, and it's just a really cute oversized s'more, and these dies cut out all the kind of pieces that you need to go into it. So as you can see, there are two different pieces to this die set. There's the sort of overall outline, and then there's the detail piece. So I'm first taking the detail piece and using it to cut into a piece of white cardstock. And this is some Copic friendly cardstock because I'm planning on filling in the colors for this little s'more using my Copic markers. Now, as you can see in the video, it's taking me a few passes through my die cutting machine to make sure all of these pieces get cut out properly. I think this die set is just a little bit finicky, I guess, or maybe it's very possible that it's just my die cutting machine or the plates or something in the combination of all that. So if you're finding that as well, that it's sort of not cutting things out on the first pass, it's totally fine to just put the die back through your die cutting machine multiple times with the paper until it cuts it out, and usually after a few tries it'll get it. So as you can see, I cut out all of the pieces, the detail pieces in white, and I've got them sort of just lined up at the top there. And I then cut out the outline piece in black, and now I'm cutting the detail piece in black as well because that will produce that outline that the white pieces will sort of slot into like a puzzle. And that outline piece acts as the background for the whole thing. And you'll see that being assembled in just a moment here, but first I'm going to start coloring in these individual pieces. And like I mentioned, I'm using my Copic markers for this. I'm starting with sort of the big, I guess, face piece of the s'more, which is supposed to be, I guess, the marshmallow. So I colored the whole thing in a warm gray color, I think it was W1, and now I'm just kind of coming in on the edges with some light browns and some stippling. And this, in my opinion, just makes it look like it's kind of being toasted and burned, which I think is really cute. Well, I guess not burned, just nicely toasted. Okay, so now that I have the first piece colored, I'm going to go ahead and start filling it into the s'more outline as sort of a puzzle, and you'll see what I mean in a moment. I took the black background piece and I glued the black detailed outline piece onto it, and that creates kind of like an elevated ridge where I can just slot in all of these colored white pieces into their little openings. So now I'm just going to go ahead and color in each piece one by one, and then once I'm done coloring it, I'll just add a little bit of glue to the back and then slot it into the little opening where it should go onto this piece using a little bit of liquid glue. And to glue that outline onto the back sort of black backing piece of that s'more, I also used a little bit of liquid glue, just little dots, to make sure that nothing smeared too much. I did find that for these colored pieces that I am coloring onto white cardstock, you could kind of see the white cardstock on the edges unless you colored the edges as well. So for each of the pieces, I am taking a moment to really take my marker and color along sort of the edges of the piece, and that makes sure that you don't see any of that white cardstock poking through. It really just looks like the color that you're coloring it. Okay, so for that little sort of gooey ooey piece above the marshmallow, of course that's chocolate, so I colored it in with some dark browns, and now the rest of the pieces are just different sort of angles of the wafer cracker, I guess the graham cracker. So for those I'm using sort of lighter browns, and I'm just coming in with a bit of darker browns on the edges and then blending them in towards the center, just to make it look like the light is kind of shining at this s'more from the center, and that's why you see the highlight in the middle and sort of the darkness coming in from the sides. So I'm doing that for the two pieces at the top and then the two pieces at the bottom, which again just kind of showcases like the different angles of the graham cracker. So I feel like I've been talking about this die for a long time, and now I'm really hungry and I want some s'mores. Who else loves s'mores? Aren't they delicious? Okay, so there is the final piece all assembled, and you can see that that black outline provides a really nice detail. The final piece in this die set, I should mention, it actually comes in 3 parts, and the third part is just this little set of 2 ovals, which are meant, I think, to act as the cheeks of the s'more, and that just gives it a really cute detail. So I cut that out of some pink cardstock and just glued them right on. Okay, so now that I have the s'more done, it's time to assemble the rest of this card. To start, I created a hillside by cutting out a piece of cardstock in green, and then I used a hillside, just a stitched hillside border to make it into a hillside shape. I just blended on some dark green ink onto the top just to give it a bit of extra dimension. I then take a navy blue rectangle, so I cut a rectangle out of navy blue cardstock, and now I'm using a cloud stencil to sponge on some white pigment ink. And this is again Lawn Fawn brand, it's Yeti, I think is the name of the color, and it's just a white pigment ink. This makes that look of sort of clouds in the night. I wanted some extra splatter, so I'm just taking some white paint and splattering it onto this whole sky using a paintbrush. I just kind of watered down the paint on an acrylic block and then splattered it right out. I also wanted a bit of shimmer, so I'm doing the same thing with some sparkle. So this is Lawn Fawn Liquid Stardust, I believe it's called. It's just a sort of clear, liquidy shimmer. Okay, I also cut a piece of black cardstock using the new Lawn Fawn Forest Backdrop die. And that's that piece that has that beautiful sort of oval shape in the middle cut out and then some trees. And off to the side you can see I also die cut a few extra trees out of different colors of green cardstock. And those dies also come in the same set as that forest backdrop, so you get the backdrop and the trees and then a few other pieces as well that I don't think I'm using for this card. But yeah, it's a really nice way to sort of build this beautiful framed scene. So I glued that forest backdrop right onto the hillside and then glued all of that back onto the sky so that you get that beautiful sky, the hillside in front of it, and then the forest backdrop in front of the whole thing. I'm taking my entire piece and just using some liquid glue to glue it onto a standard size card base. So that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, which is the size that die cuts out as well. I can then take my die cut trees and then glue them right onto the front of this card using some liquid glue. As you can see, each of these trees is actually 2 pieces of cardstock, one on the back and one on the front, and the one on the front has some sort of notches that are cut out of it as part of the die that allows you to see into the die cut kind of behind it onto the base layer. So the bigger trees are actually a light green base with a dark green overlay, and the small trees are a dark green base with a light green overlay. I thought that just added a nice bit of interest. Okay, so I wanted this s'more to stand out right in the middle of the card, so I just added some foam squares to the back of it and placed it right down, right into the middle of the scene. Now it's time for the sentiment, and for this I knew I wanted the word s'more in big letters, so I took Finley's ABC dies by Lawn Fawn and cut out the letters for s'more. I also cut out an extra G, which you might be confused by, but basically I used that to make an apostrophe. So I just sort of cut out a part of the G, sort of the curvy part, and that kind of became the apostrophe in s'more. Now I cut this out of Lawn Fawn Speckled Egg cardstock, which is a really nice cream color, and that I thought I would allow some of it to peek through, but I ended up deciding not to, and I ended up just coloring the letters in sort of an ombre set of browns. So starting with a dark brown at the bottom, then a medium brown in the middle, and a light brown at the top. And this allowed the letters to kind of look like they were chocolate, almost like melting chocolate. That was the goal, that was the intention I was going for. So that is what I did, and I just colored each of the letters with my markers in kind of the same order and the same distance with each of the different shades of brown, so that all of the letters were consistent. I also colored along the edges so that it just all looked nice and brown. To finish off the sentiment, I'm stamping the words every day onto a banner, and this just comes from a different Lawn Fawn stamp set, and I knew that I wanted that to just kind of be along the bottom of the card tucked in behind the trees. So I'm trimming the edges off where I want it to be tucked in behind the trees, and then I can just use some glue to kind of shimmy that in and glue it right down onto the bottom. Now the rest of the sentiment at the top will say, I love you, so that the whole sentiment reads, I love you s'more every day. So I stamped out the sentiment I love you with the same brown ink onto a banner of cardstock, the same color as I did at the bottom, which again is just that Lawn Fawn Speckled Egg cardstock. And now I can go ahead and glue down each letter, just again with my liquid glue. And after that, the card will be complete. It's a fairly simple card as there are no really major stamped images in it. It's just the stamped sentiments, and the rest are made up from die cuts, which I think is really fun, and I don't usually do that in my card making. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please do go ahead and check out that video description below to find out more information about the whole hop, as well as check out Neha's new website, which I'm sure is amazing, and you can use that website to buy your Lawn Fawn supplies. Thank you so much, and I hope that I'll see you in the next video. Bye!